there was a basically a guy. I was sitting on a bench outside of Queen's Place, which is the mall with the giant circle ramp around it. And this guy was kind of doing these weird exercises on the ground. And eventually this guy started coming closer and closer to me. And eventually he kind of just used my bench for his exercises, which would be okay. But he started basically making a lot of making a lot of moving and shaking. He was, basically almost like he was trying to piss me off with his exercises. So at some point I was like, do you mind not doing that over here, or can you go to some other bench that's empty? And as soon as he opened his mouth, I could tell that the guy was kind of a weirdo. But I didn't think anything of it. And after that, the guy kind of wouldn't stop talking to me. And come to think of it, I think he was trying to have a conversation with me before I spoke to him. I think that I only spoke to him because he was bothering me, and he wouldn't stop talking while he was using that bench for whatever. So it goes on, and oh Jesus, I'm trying to remember, but eventually it kind of leads to this thing where it gets dark pretty quick. The people around us kind of leave, and it's just kind of me and him. He's a taller dude, obviously stronger than me at that moment, faster too. I think in this version of the dream, I'm like a little bit more out of shape, a little bit slower, a little fatter. So I can tell after talking to this guy for like more than 2 minutes that, because he won't leave me alone, it's like, okay, he very clearly wants something to do with me. And eventually it happens where I kind of have this confrontation with the guy. And, he's taking me up to his apartment, And, obviously me, I'm all alone in the middle of the night, and I'm just kind of thinking about my options, And I think that maybe if I try and make a run for it, he might just kill me then and there. So I don't remember like the exact specifics, but it basically ends up where I'm in this guy's apartment. He took me up there, and now I'm thinking of where to go from there. And I can tell that this guy is like kind of like mentally ill. Maybe he's had like a rough childhood or something. And I'm just like in my head, like my mind is racing, like I'm just trying to find some way out. And I'm thinking, but there's not a lot of things I can do here because it's a very small apartment, and the guy is keeping tabs on me like 24/7. And I wish I could remember the conversations that we were having, but basically, the guy never stops talking to me, never leaves me alone. But he hasn't done anything physical to me so far. And essentially what happens is I start talking to him, because that's the only thing that I can think of. I can think of trying to do. I'm thinking like maybe, God willing, I can like maybe like befriend this guy, or give myself some pity points where he ultimately decides, you know what, I'm gonna let you go, right? So I think he was playing some sort of like game, right? He was playing some sort of like video game on his iPad, and I was kind of just like behind him. And I knew better than like try to escape or try to fight back or anything like that, because that would probably anger him. It's like horror movie stuff where it's like you very much know that you are fucked no matter what you do, what angle of approach you take. So I decided to be friendly, and um, after a little while, it seems to be working. He's talking back to me. He's kind of, he's kind of joking around a little bit, this and that. But he's still mentally ill, so it's very hard to kind of get a grasp of like, is he actually like being friendly, or is he kind of just like playing along with like this kind of like, I'm gonna pretend that this guy, might have a chance, or something like that. And this goes back and forth for a while, and we're being friendly. But I think at one point, he actually kind of trusts me a little bit more, and he leaves the room. Well, actually, before he leaves the room, I kind of like take my phone out. I start kind of just like pretending to like just kind of go through my feed, this and that. I basically try and make it look like it's normal. Like I don't really care that I'm there. Like it was my choice to come up to that apartment with him. Like basically like that. Like I don't know. I wanted to make it look like I appeared to like, even though I was scared shitless for my life, I wanted that like maybe if I made him think like I didn't really think anything of the situation, that he would give me some chance to basically um try to escape, like maybe he'd leave me alone or something, or go to another room or do something else. And what happened was he left the room for like, I want to say like 20 seconds. And in that time, I pulled out my phone. I went to like the texting app and I texted Patrick the address of the place I was at, and it took a while because I didn't actually know where the place was. And the first thing I did was I went on Google and I typed in what are my coordinates. And usually when you do that, it gives you like a latitude and longitude, but for some reason it didn't work over here. Like I had like really shitty signal and it was doing some weird stuff, so I couldn't get the latitude and longitude. And so that didn't work. I tried it like a bunch of times and I knew the clock was ticking, so instead, I pulled out my Google Maps and I zoomed in on the exact place I was at. And I just typed in the address that was like closest. It was like this apartment complex, like kind of like how Lafrac City has like those giant apartment complexes. Imagine that, but in the dream, it was like right next to Queen's Place. Like there was a huge apartment complex right next to Queen's Place, like literally like right next to it. So I look at that like a little number on the building, on Google Maps, and I just like I go to Patrick, and I write down the full address, and I try and give like some sort of like description of what's going on. But I'm like, I basically just I give the address and I say, like, help, or something like that is what I write over there, and I send it. And at this point, all I can do is wait. The guy comes back, and I basically switch my apps. I'm not gonna hide the fact that I'm using my phone, but instead I'm gonna like pull out like a different app. It's like some like like a game or something, like where it looks like I was just like bored while he was gone and I was playing some kind of game. So he comes back. I think then at that point is when he starts talking about how he's gonna fucking kill me. And essentially the way this conversation goes is that, oh, Jesus Christ, I don't know if I can sleep now. Basically, the way this conversation goes is that, it's kind of like an inevitable thing where, I'm just trying to think of it like how this guy's demeanor was, but it wasn't like a back and forth, like, it actually kind of was a back and forth. I was kind of like pleading with him almost, like, like, I'm trying to remember like our exact conversation, but it was kind of like a back and forth. Like I was trying to like talk him out of it or something, not like head on. Like, hey man, don't do this, this and that. It was like, hey, listen, is it really worth like killing me? I mean, I feel like there's probably somebody more deserving, or maybe you want to take me give me like an hour to like maybe like write my final like goodbyes to people or something, stuff like that. Like buy myself some more time was maybe the idea I had. I was just trying anything to give myself some more time because it seemed that very clearly he was moving closer and closer to making his move and fucking ending my life, and I was scared shitless. And then at that point, as if by some miracle, I think the guy's father came up to the apartment, right? Like we got like a knock on the door. The guy stepped outside, and I stepped outside with him. I don't really know how that works, how I was able to do that, but it was a dream. And the guy didn't really acknowledge me because he just came for his son. And it was kind of like one of those like father-son moments where he's like, the father and the son are kind of like arguing, and he's like, the father was talking like, what's it called? You told me that you were going to be paying the rent for this month. Your landlord called me. He said you hadn't made a payment in 2 months. I'm sick and tired of this. I'm gonna ask you to move out soon, or like some stuff like that. Like it was just a father and son arguing, and I could tell very easily that these guys have like a long history of like a very unsteady relationship, very unhealthy relationship. And the guy had a lot of resentment for his father, and also vice versa. Like the two basically hated each other, you know. I think the father was like sad at what his like son became, and the son was just like trying to like connect with his dad in some way, but it just wasn't gonna work. But in that time, because it's a dream and logic doesn't really matter. I kind of like go up a flight of stairs next to like a roof almost. Like apparently this guy's apartment was on the floor right next to the roof. So I'm on the staircase next to the roof entrance. And at that point I'm thinking of who I can call. I don't really want to call 911 because as soon as they come out and the guy can hear their sirens outside the building, he's gonna kill me straight up. He has nothing to lose. He's deranged, whatever. I have no chances. So, it was kind of like me from today. So my first call would have been to Matthew, but I knew that we had that argument, and I didn't like. Even if even if we weren't on good terms, I know that guy's really sketchy about picking up his phone, so I have to pick very carefully. So I'm thinking of somebody who always answers his phone, and I pick this guy, Erie, and I call him, and thankfully, like the minute I press call, this guy's like, "Oh, hello," and I'm like, "Erie, I'm about to send you an address. What's it called? Get people over here as soon as possible, and call 911 and give them this address." I tell them to call 911 anyway. And please do it as soon as possible. And I don't think he really understands what's going on, so he's kind of like doing it like in a joking manner, like, "Okay, yeah, no problem." And I'm like, "Erie, you have to do this right now." And like it takes like a lot of like back and forth where I don't think he really understands what's going on. But then I basically tell him like, "Listen, man, my life could be in danger. Okay, my life is on the line, dude. Please get people over here as soon as possible." And he's like, "Okay," and I hang up. And this guy's still arguing with his dad. And this is the point where basically I try to escape, because it's a little bit hard for the guy to see me at the staircase. I'm not sure if he's like lost track of me, but you figure like after all this time where he's talking to his dad, that he would at least like try to like make sure like I'm still with him, or this and that. So I'm standing in this hallway, back down with him and a few feet from him, and one of his tenants is kind of like distressed, almost like he's in the same situation that I am, although I never saw him anywhere up until that point. So we're basically kind of like looking at each other in certain ways, where it's like we're trying to like read each other's minds about what to do right now. And I, because it's a dream, logic is kind of messed up. So I, I go over to like this kind of window that opens, and when you open this window, it kind of leads outside. And again, I'm not really sure how, but we already established the guy's apartment was up top, near the top of the apartment complex. But when I opened this window, I might have skipped myself going down some stairs I don't remember in the dream, but let's just assume that I went down some stairs and I opened this window and I kind of crawled out through this window towards like this kind of like platform, but it was on ground level, so I'm facing out towards like the Queen's Place, towards the street, towards Queens Boulevard. And I get out, and I'm just thinking of where to go. And in that moment, I'm thinking to just hide. It's like the dead of night. There's nobody on the street, and I'm analyzing my options. And talking about it right now, I think I just would have like ran into the street, and not even think about it again, because obviously you just want the chance that somebody sees you, you need somebody that sees you and pulls over or something like that, rather than try and leg it alone. But in that moment, I'm not really sure why, I decide on running, towards like somewhere I can hide myself. And the first place I'm thinking of is inside Queen's Place. Terrible decision. Like, I'm in real life right now, but I'm still scared shitless from this dream, man. I thought my life was over. Like, I hear like these little cracks behind me. I think it's this guy or something, So I start running into the kind of like ramp that leads up to the parking lot. Jesus, it really sounds like something's behind me. And as I'm running, as I'm about to like run into this ramp, I hear the guy's voice, and I turn around, and sure enough, he's somehow there already, on the ground level. He's like 30 feet away from me, and I cannot believe how he got down this fast. And I'm already thinking to myself, like, I'm a logical guy, so I'm thinking to myself, if he already got there this fast, I'm fucked. I'm fucking dead. I'm gonna try to like give myself some time for people to get here, maybe do something, but I'm pretty sure I'm fucking dead. And the tenant that was with me when we decided to make our escape, we were there together basically. So there was like two of us, and like in the moment there's like three of us, like other prisoners, I guess. Like, I don't know, maybe he like kept them locked in a closet or something. I didn't see them, but there were three of us all kind of like running in different directions trying to hide. And he was saying something along the lines of like, to me, because I was heading towards like the ramp, he's like, oh, trying to hide among the parked cars, how cliche. Implying that other people have done that before. Like, this guy was really starting to adopt some kind of like Freddy Krueger fucking like personality. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. So I start running in there, and I'm just like, my life is like flashing before my eyes. I'm thinking to myself, like, I wish I had an opportunity to tell certain people that I love them, that I'm gonna miss them. Like at that point, it wasn't really about like being about wanting to live. It was more just about me wanting to, tell certain people like thank you, or I love you, or hey, listen, thanks for making this part of my life enjoyable. Blah blah blah. That's really all that was about. That's what I was thinking at that moment. I was like, I'm gonna die, but Jesus, I wish I at least got the opportunity to tell the people important to me that they were important, And I start running up the ramp. I can hear this guy's footsteps getting louder and louder, and my heart starts racing faster and faster. And at that moment, is when I wake up. And I was so shocked to wake up because I forgot to mention this part. But while I was on that staircase leading up to the roof, one of the thoughts in my head was like, this has got to be a dream, yo, the way this is going. And because I was thinking about it like as a dream, I even started pinching myself a little bit. I didn't wake up. So that was like a really scary moment for me because I was like, oh shit, this is for real. So you got to understand, like I was I was convinced that this shit was for real. And when I woke up, I was so grateful. I was so scared. I had no idea how I could have a dream like that. And God, I'm just so thankful to be alive. That's all I can say. I've never been that scared of a dream before. That might be the scariest dream I've ever had to been a part of.